Hey mages, welcome to today's video, and Bloomburrow is soon upon us and it's going to be hitting standard very soon, due to be a new standard from the 30th of this month, and that means we will have some sets that will be rotating out. Those sets are the both Innistrad sets, Midnight Hunt and Crimson Vow, Kamigawa Neon Dynasty's going, and also Streets of New Capenna. So what I've got to you today is 5 meta decks I've put together, taking out some of the most important cards from those deleted sets and put in what I think will do very well into those decks until we can then fill the gaps maybe with some Bloomburrow cards. Now, I've put these decks, they are ready to play now, and hopefully you will have a lot of these cards because they've been in standard potentially, for a lot longer, and you might be able to play these decks ready to play. Now, I've taken out the cards, I'm not waiting till the 30th, we got these decks ready to play now, and then in a future video, we can then tinker with some of them, and then maybe add some Bloomburrow cards to these decks. But first of all, we're going to take a look at our first deck. So our first deck is rotation proof, of course, Boros Humans. Boros Humans is a very good aggro deck based around having a lot of creatures. My version here is 32 creatures. We have 4 enchantments as well, because we're playing enchantments because we do lose some cards. One important card that we do lose is Thalia, Guardian of Thraben. Now, this would obviously normally run no spells at all. It would just run a lot of creature spells. Occasionally you would see builds maybe 1 or 2. But this gives the opportunity with Thalia coming out that you can add in some more creatures and potentially some other spells as well. As you can see from the list, this Boros Human deck does lose some very, very good cards. Brutal Cathar was really good removal, comes down as a 3-drop and then can flip into the first strike into the Brute. Adeline was a very good pressure card, coming down, making a token when it's attacking, and although the toughness didn't get any bigger, this had vigilance and become a massive powerful creature. And then a couple of the 1-drops that, we do have 1-drops that can come in this play, so while these were very good, the Veteran that could then come back as the Phantom and Hopeful Initiate, I feel like we have some, good replacements currently in standard before we look at what Bloomburrow cards later on we can then potentially change some of these over. Now, the lands that will be changing are Ganju. All of these channel lands are going, and I feel like a lot of decks are going to miss this, the blue, the red, the green. Takanuma, the black one that will just bring stuff back as well, but I feel like these are going to be a real big miss. And the other card that was heavily played in it was Secluded Courtyard, where you choose a creature type. Obviously that would be humans in this, and it was just a really good uncommon land. So the basis of this deck still has, the majority of really good cards that I had in there. We've got Warden of the Inner Sky in there, Recruitment Officer as well, the Pumpage of Coppercoat Vanguard is really good, Imadone's Recruiter, nice that this is in there. This is what pumps up your creatures and gives everything haste and a little +1/0, and then you go in for potentially that final attacking win. Knight Errant of Eos is a great way to go through your deck looking at the top 6 cards, and we still have plenty of early plays here with the Novice Inspector, which is one of the cards that I am bringing in when we lose potentially some of those 1-drops. This enters the battlefield, you get to investigate, so it makes a nice artifact, sacrifice the artifact, draw a card, 1/2 body. And I feel like when you've got something like Coppercoat, it could then become a 2/2 down turn, coming in, attacking and getting some early damage in. The other card that I've brought in, now Thalia has gone, is Case of the Gateway Express. We don't potentially have the removal like the Cathar, but this will get that off the field and they're not going to get it back. So this enters the battlefield, choose target creature you don't control. Each creature you control deals 1 damage to that. Now we'll be playing a lot of early creatures like the Warden, the Recruitment, turn 2 Coppercoat. We could have 2-3, creatures on the battlefield quite easily and then ping away, so it leaves away a blocker. And I feel like this is a really good card. When you solve it, 3 or more creatures attacking, then the solved creatures get that extra bump as well, another +1/0, which suits this really good aggressive deck very, very well. Up in a few more numbers, Sanguine, Evangelist in there, and then we're adding in Anil Pack 1000th Moon. So when you attack with 1 or more non-known creatures, put a 1/1 counter, then create X 1/1 colourless known creature tokens attacking, where X is number 1/1 counter. So this for me is a very good, in there as a 2 of a very good aggressive creature that suits the deck really well. Land base, we're just adding in, so, you know, we lost a few lands, we lost a Ganju, but we don't really have to change too much with this. Battlefield Forge and Elegant Parlour can come into there. We can use a bit of Surveil to get rid of anything that we don't need at that current time. Cavern's still there, and then Mirix. But even though the deck loses, you know, a handful of creatures, Hopeful, Luna, Thalia, Adelaide and Brutal, we can go in there, add a bit more removal, add more pumpage, and potentially by adding in, we can add in, you know, getting more creatures in there as well. So I feel like Boros Humans, from my practice with this deck, it's still been just as good. Sticking with red, we're going to Mono Red Prowess, a very good deck that everyone loves to play. It's very popular on the ladder. Doesn't lose many cards, but, you know, a couple of important ones. One really important one is Kumano for me, Faces of Kakazan. This is a great one drop down there. Gives 1 damage. Next creature comes in with a counter, then turns into a hasty 2/2 creature as well. So this is going to be a real big miss to the deck. Then the rest is a couple of spells. Ancestral Anger. I feel like we've got, you know, a card in there that can do a job for us that you'll see in a sec. And then Play with Fire as well is just really good because we have the ability to scry and it's 2 damage to any target. But we have something in there that loses the scry, but we can just replace with Shock. Shock can come in, 2 damage to any target, unless there's anything better that we can put in from Bloomburrow for that. Getting rid of the Kumano Faces Kakazan, I've replaced it with Convenient Target. So enchant creature is going to trigger the prowess for us. The creature enters the battlefield suspected, so it has menace as well, makes it harder for opponents to block. Gets +1/1, and then you can pay 3 and return it from the graveyard back to your hand. So a recurring threat for us, and it will trigger prowess and give a bit of evasion with the menace as well. Can't block, but we're not really looking to block with this type of deck, are we? Now, the other cards that I've added in Invasion of Regatha back into the deck. I like this 3-drop. 4 damage, can win you a game, 1 damage extra to a creature, potentially ping off maybe a little blocker or something like that, and then we'll turn into a prowess non-creature. If a non-creature source you control will deal damage to a creature, 2 damage plus instead. So a big 4/4 with prowess that can really get some damage in. But to be honest, when I've been playing this deck as this new version of Mono Red, I've just been doing it and not attacking to get the disciples on the field. Maybe late game might be good, but to be honest, the 4 damage is just sweet for this. We still have the majority of the great part of this deck, which is the new Slick Shot Show Off. That made the deck and is just, you know, it's just can be a one-shot kill. It really, really can. We've got Fugitive Codebreaker, Prowess Haste in there as well. The same with the Swiss Spear still staying in. Then Monstrous Rage, and lots of other spells like Lightning Strike, the 4 Shock that I've said are coming in, and then we're going to have a couple of Volcanic Spite in there for 3 damage for 2, and it's another way potentially to draw a card. We lose Sokizan Crucible. It's a great channel card, but it's not essential to this deck. 18 Mountains, Mono Red Prowess, still going to be a great deck. No matter what we put in from Bloomburrow, this deck is ready to play and win. We then go to Blue-White Control, a deck that I love to play. Blue-White Control, we lose quite a few great cards from this, and the game winner, potentially, that it used to just play, which was Wandering Emperor, then just loads of spells. So I know a lot of people will be loving that Wanderer Emperor finally rotates out. It's just really good, flashing in there, making the tokens, exiling as well. Leaving that 4 mana up was just brilliant for this. Memory Deluge, gutted about that one going 4 mana, but we've got a card that takes its place in that, so I feel like this one is covered. Removal, March of Otherworldly, occasionally a 1 of or a 2 of, so, you know, while very good getting the exile in and being instant speed, definite replacements. Lands, we get absolutely slaughtered in this deck. Iganju, Otawara, Deserted Beach as well, and the Field of Ruin that can be replaced, and the really good counter spell Make Disappear, but we have others coming in. So the deck, 8 card changes is, you know, it's definitely going to be a bit different. Now, the win con that I've changed into, that you still see in a lot of decks anyway, is bringing Jace the Perfected Mine into it again. At the moment, this is going to be our win con till we add Bloomburrow cards. I feel like this is just, you know, getting that mill. Everyone hates mill. Get Jace on there, tick up a few times, then just do some major milling. And while you're doing that, your countering spells, drawing cards and everything like that. Now the Memory Deluge, I'm swapping for Farsight Ritual. This also has bargains, so we can sacrifice an artifact. We do have ways to make that as well, so that is pretty good for this deck. Look at the top 4 cards. If this spell is bargain though, we get to look at the top 8 cards and put 2 of them in there. So I feel like this is a good, probably a bit underused cards, but Memory Deluge obviously was taken out, but now that's in there, this is just going to do really good work for us. Now, sacrificing that artifact as well, or enchantment or token, we can make tokens with Mirrex. They can be sacked to look at the top 8, which I think is a great way to do it as well. So there is ways around it that we can do this. Now look at some of the other spells that are coming in. Phantom Interference can make a token, counter target spell unless its controller plays 2. So there's our Make Disappear covered. And then 3 steps ahead, counter target spell for 3, create a token of a target artifact, and then drawing cards. Just a real good versatile card coming in there. So you can see this deck still has some really good cards. I added in a single spell stutter in there. Counter target spell unless it can plays 2, additional 1 for each fairy, but still just in there as our Make Disappear. And then we add Deduce. Now this will really help in conjunction with Farsight Ritual that require that artifact. And Deduce will make an Investigate token, so you get to draw a card and then investigate, so you get some synergy with them being able to look at the top 8. When looking at the top 8 is really big. 4 mana, putting 2 in the hands, it means you can find what you need. The removal in Sunfall, the removal in Temporary Lockdown, any of our other removal, Get Lost or Soul Partition, more counter spells potentially with No More Lies, or just finding our win con. So I love this. I've had real fun playing this deck, and although we're losing some really cool cards, with the lands as well, we still bring in Restless Anchorage. We've got that in there. We've got Meticulous Archive, Demolition Field for the Field of Ruin. There's still plenty of lands that still make this deck really good, and the win con for me with Jace is, for me, it's better than having the Wandering Emperor, because I just love Jace. 2 more decks to go now, and we're on to Boros Convoke. So very much like the Boros Humans deck, some similar cards are coming in here. This deck doesn't lose much at all. 2 lands and Voldaren Epicure. Enter battlefield, deals 1 damage. So the deck doesn't lose anything. You change the 2 lands, Arganja and Sokazan, although very good, it's not losing that much. So Boros Convoke is a deck that rotates very, very well. So you can put this into your deck and just put this deck. You've probably already got the majority of the cards and just as is basically. Still with the Knight Errant, which is the main card for this deck. Getting early creatures down and convoking this and looking at the top cards and finding what you need. The cards that I have added in, I added in Cacophony Scamp because I feel like this is a pretty sweet card to add in. Deals combat damage to a player. You may sacrifice it if you do proliferate when Scamp dies. So you can build this up and then use it as a win con as well. So although Voldaren comes in and creates the blood token and the 1 damage, I feel like the Scamp could do some serious work. And for me, it was just a straight 1-drop swap. Didn't need much else, like I said, for this deck. It still has the Gateway in there that was in there, and then lots of little creatures, the Novice that we saw going into the other Humans deck, because if it's good enough for Convoke, it's good enough for Humans as well. And Gleef of Demolition, which will destroy those artifacts that we will make. So this deck rotates extremely well. War Leaders, Imodine's Recruiter, very aggressive, and this is a deck that I think we're definitely still going to see a lot of. The final deck that we are going to look at is the 4-color Reanimator deck, which is the combo deck. Loses quite a few cards again. A lot of lands that, the Azorius colours, the blue-white colours, we're getting hit a bit with the Deserted Beach, like I said, Otawara, Ganju. And for this, we lose Otherworldly Gaze, which I replaced, Surveil 3, Flashback, Draw, and, we wanted a way to discard. So straight swap for me was bringing in 3 steps ahead for this. Drawing 2 cards, discarding if we need, and we got a counter spell there and creating a token of an artifact. So still, very good swap. Ledger Shredder was a good way to win as well, but I feel like this is just going all in for the combo. And Faithful Mending was another good way to discard the cards, because this is what you want to be doing to the combo. So the combo is getting stuff into your graveyard, getting Rakdos Joins up in there, ends the battlefield, return target creature card from your graveyard, but counters, you get Hulking Metamorph back in there, enters for copy. Basically, you would just keep doing that, and then when the legendary you control dies, it deals damage equal to the power, and you build up your powers, and then, you know, coming in with the counters, this, you know, all of a sudden becomes massive, and you're just doing like a one-shot win. It's just really, really good. So what I've added in is a Talion's Messenger. Now, this is the replacement for the Ledger Shredder. Flying, whenever you attack with one or more fairies, draw a card, and then discard a card. So helps us with the draw and discard. Whenever you discard a card, put a 1/1 counter on target fairy you control. So we can get this in there and build it up. And just, you know, by chance, this deck also runs Picklock Prankster, which is a fairy as well. So you're milling and then putting counters on this one potentially, or the Talion. So we have a little bit of synergy there with the couple of fairies that those counters can go on as well. So I feel like this, it did run a 2 of Ledger Shredder, and Talion's Messenger just comes straight in for me, because this is all about getting your Abulios, returning target non and creature enchantments, getting these in, because we don't run any way of playing this other than getting it in with the Abulios. And then we have more cards to discard. Surveil comes in with the Curate, so that isn't a straight swap as well for cards like Faithful Mending, which is draw. This will help us Surveil too, put it into the graveyard. And then we've got Charter Course that can discard cards as well. So very much a deck that, although has some swaps in there, we have cards very similar already that aren't going to be rotating now, that can stick in there and keep this combo deck playing. And if you can get it off, you know, how consistent this is, I've played it, it's super fun to play. It obviously does get the wins and maybe a bit harder to deal with for some decks. I'm surprised it never runs like a Sunfalls or anything like that, but you know, that would put the stuff into exile, but you're really doing it to get rid of opponent stuff, not really to get rid of anything of ours like the Hulking when it comes in, because that's, once we assemble that combo, that's normally, you know, that's GG's. As for the lands, Restless Anchorage come in a bit more attacking with a creature, and then we've got Sea Chromes, a Darker Waste, still plenty of lands, you know, losing Deserted Beach, we can bring stuff in that doesn't rotate, and I feel like this, for me, is a fun deck to play, and still with that combo in there makes it all, you know, a good deck for all you combo players. So there's 5 meta decks for you, ready for rotation. We can start adding in Bloomburrow cards when we get the new standard in the 30th, but these decks are ready to play. I'll leave a link down below where you can go over to my Mox field, get the deck list for these and start playing them straight away. And hopefully you can, you know, to mute the transition, if some of these are your favourite decks, it's making it easy in transition. And, you know, comment down below if you want to see, you know, what type of Bloomburrow cards you think would be good for this, because generally what I do when there's a new set coming out, I like to leave it as more of a surprise. So when I get them, I'll be looking at new cards. And obviously, if you want to see an updated version of this, give me a video, big thumbs up, shows me that you liked the video and everything like that. Thanks for watching today's video. You lot take care, and I'll see you on the next video.